What's up, everybody? It's Will at Schedulefly, and I am very excited today for this interview. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm at Chai Pani, which was started by Marwan Irani, who we've had on the podcast, who we had in our book. And we are sitting here in Chai Pani with three of the team members who recently visited India as a trip for the restaurant, and a very special, unique opportunity. So I can't wait to talk to them about it. I'm sitting here with Isaac and Andy and Gavin. They were three of the five people from Chai Pani that went to India. And so let's dive in, guys. Tell me, Isaac, we'll start with you. Just tell me, how did this trip, like, what was it all about? How did it start, and what's going on with this?
Well, I'd spent a lot of time in India in years past before Chai Pani, and it's always been obviously a big part of the restaurant. So for years we've talked about how great it would be to bring some employees to India, because it's kind of impossible to really understand the culture and the food without having visited. And we try as best as we can through training, but visiting is unparalleled. So,
and Chai Pani is Indian street food. I mean, that's pretty much what the
right
here in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, and down in Atlanta, we've got two restaurants too. So we, after a lot of years of kind of dreaming about this, just this last summer, we completely committed to making it happen. So we decided to take 5 employees. So one from the Chai Pani restaurant, one from the Chai Pani in Decatur, Georgia, one from Botiwala in Atlanta, and then we also wanted to take one manager, and then I led the trip. So it was really the fulfillment of a big time goal of mine personally with the company, was to make this trip happen. So the goal is to do this every year and to put it out to staff. If they've been employed with the company for a year, they can apply, and then we just kind of sort through the applications and consider different attributes of the person and some recommendations for managers, and then put a team together and go.
Awesome. How long were y'all there?
We were there for, I think, like 12 days in country.
Wow.
Which is really, really short to go to India, because there's so much to see and so much to eat. But it felt like long enough, I think, just barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you spent a lot of time there in the past.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, let's see. So Andy, how about you? Have you been to India before?
This was my first time.
Yeah, and what were you excited about for this trip?
I was excited to eat the best food of my life and to see all the colors. There's so much color there, and there's so much like history built into just everywhere you look, and just so much like texture and modernization, but also like ancient, buildings that have been there for hundreds of years and stuff. And yeah, just get immersed in the whole culture of it.
How long have you been a part of the Chai Pani Restaurant Group?
For almost 3 years, I'd say. Almost 3 years at this point.
Almost 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in April it will be 3.
Okay, got it. And what about this group has been really exciting for you and something you've wanted to be a part of for this long?
It's the first job where I've ever felt comfortable being myself. Feel pretty accepted here, and I actually really enjoy the food, so I feel like I can do a good job with recommending things to people and not having to fake it, feel pretty honest in my work here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Gavin, tell us about what were you looking forward to at the trip? Why did you want to be a part of it?
Well, for me, I've been working in the kitchen for 4.5 years. And, over time, I've learned the recipes. I've gotten used to the spices we use, the flavor profile. But I didn't have an understanding of why.
Yeah.
Or any background to it outside of, just learning from other chefs and cooks. So for me, the trip was to get it from the source and understand what I've been doing for, 4 years.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, just getting immersed in the culture, seeing the country. It was pretty big.
What was your biggest takeaway from the trip?
I knew, India's a big country, has a high population. It's just, I didn't realize how intense it was going to be for all the senses. And a big one was eating the food and realizing how much depth there was. And, we have a pretty good menu here, but just noticing like there's so much more we can do, and there's so much out there just in Indian cuisine. So it was really nice to get to see that.
You got ideas of things that y'all could?
Yeah, I think especially me and Isaac have talked about a lot that we could start branching out with and start, kind of bringing what we got from the trip here and, bring it to the clientele that we have.
Gotcha. Okay. Actually, Isaac, if you pass the mic, we got one mic here, folks. We're passing around. So tell me a little bit more about, this has been a dream of yours. First of all, did it kind of live up to what you had expected?
Yeah, I think Gavin said it well. Like it was fully immersive in all of their senses. Everybody in the group dove in and dealt with the culture shock in productive ways, like by kind of talking about things that were new or challenging, and also with just kind of engaging with the people. We didn't ever the way I've always traveled in India has been pretty budget, and you can go to India and stay in 5-star hotels and have taxi drivers and never have to deal with anybody ever, and you can have a great time. But I've always gotten down on the street and talked to the people around me, go to the markets, eat the food, and so I kind of modeled that for the group to show them that even though it's really weird and challenging in a lot of ways, everybody's friendly and are excited when foreigners show interest in the culture. So it really did live up to everything I could have wanted it to be. Nobody got sick, which was pretty incredible. Yeah. And we were eating we took it a little bit careful at first, but by the end we were, if it was something that looked good, we didn't think too much about if it was a risk or not. It was a great trip.
What were some of the highlights?
I'll say that for me, having been there a bunch of times, this was the first trip that was 100% food focused, and so my highlights were all gastronomic. We had a fantastic chole bhatura, which is a chickpea curry with a fried puffy bread. It's a pretty common North Indian dish that you can find on actually a decent amount of menus in the States. But the one we had was just incredible, amazingly good. And we spent a long, challenging taxi ride trying to find it. And we finally found this little corner stall where this guy's been doing this for 60 years. And that was amazing.
60 years.
Yeah. And that's one thing about going to India is there's so much labor that there's a lot of specialization. So the guy who's been making a rumali roti at some roadside stand has probably been doing it for a long time, and he may have learned it from his dad who's been doing the same thing for a long time. And because of that specialization, you get really unique, high labor intensive food that's not that expensive. So one dish we got was this thing called dalot kichat. It's a special dessert in New Delhi and other North Indian cities that they only do in the wintertime. And the idea is that the guys who make it, they churn milk, just churn it for ever and ever and ever to get the milk froth to come off the top of it. And they do it at night. And the story of it is that the mist and dew that happens in the evening kind of mixes with the frothy milk, and then they scoop off the froth and make this big pile of froth and put some sugar in there and some saffron in there, and you get served with a little tiny disposable cup of it for 50 rupees, which is less than $1, and it's light as air and incredibly delicious. So going out and getting that was really fun.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal.
Yeah.
Andy, let me ask you this: what as you come back and kind of reflect on this trip, what are your best thoughts about, or what thoughts do you have about just what you took away from it and how it helps, maybe has changed you, as you come back here, and what you can translate or convey to your teammates?
Definitely makes me feel really thankful and appreciative for the privilege I have in everyday life here. There are a lot of people there working just so hard and not complaining about it, and it's just their way of life, and they're just super dedicated, and
Yeah.
it was really inspiring to see that and to see like the honesty behind it too. So I'd say that was definitely like a huge takeaway. Yeah, and it just kind of like expanded, it expands your world when you go somewhere so crazy different from what you're used to. And yeah, I don't know. It's been really cool to like talk to our crew members.
Have
and
y'all
stuff
spent a lot of
about it.
time talking to us? I mean, I guess they have. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of folks that really.
Yeah, I work in the front of house, so
Okay.
the first day I was back, I was talking to like a lot of regulars because I work at lunch. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that come in like once a week or something that have been, asking about the trip for months in advance. So I've been explaining it a lot to a lot of people, and it's hard to put into words like a 10, 12 day trip or whatever. Like it's a lot to sum up, but we're doing a presentation for the whole staff tomorrow.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. So that'll be cool, all encompassing, hopefully. But yeah, there's just so much to take away from it, from the sounds, the smells, the way of life, the highs and the lows. And
Do you feel like it helps you better educate your guests now that you've been there and
Definitely.
to understand what this is
Oh,
really
yeah.
all about that y'all are doing here?
yeah, it makes me appreciate what we're doing. And like, honestly, I feel like we're doing a really good job with especially the food and the flavors and the tastes and like, yeah, just the whole presentation of it.
That's what I was
Feels
going to.
pretty authentic.
Okay, I know. I wanted to ask, and I'll ask Gavin this question, being a cook. So, how much translation is there between what you experienced there and what y'all are doing here? How closely tied is it? I mean, there's so much authenticity in what you all do in terms of the food and the dynamic, the story. But here we are in Asheville, and you're talking about, Isaac, things like that have to sit every night and absorb the mist and all that. So how authentic, I guess, are you able to do what you do here authentically at Chai Pani compared to what you experienced there?
Well, with a lot of dishes we had, some I had never seen before or even heard of, because we haven't done it here, or, someone had made a special dish or curry. But the things we did try that we do here, one thing I would say is I'm very, surprised and kind of blown away at how accurate we are,
Yeah.
and able to replicate this food, especially here in the States. And then also the amount of love that we've put into it over the years, because I think it's been almost over 9 years of, finding resources and spices and all of that, going into different recipes that's updated every year. So really a lot of our dishes, like our Wada Pao, I still think is probably the best, even from what I've had in India. So I think we do quite a good job.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because as Isaac was saying, there is so much specialization there and years put into the craft. But you all are pouring a lot of love into it, as you said here, and that's been clear, and you're known for it. And it clearly translates very well as probably anybody's doing it anywhere. I mean, the amount of I just have to say that I just what you all did, the respect I have for what you did is immense. For you two and your colleagues to go, for you to lead the trip to dream this up, and for the whole group to support this. This is an amazing adventure, and it just shows the level of investment that the restaurant group is willing to make to be authentic, to be genuine, to educate staff, to educate customers, to continue to grow as an organization. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for the opportunity. It was an amazing trip.
Yeah, you don't hear about this kind of stuff. It's not with, I mean, this is still a small business. I mean, it's a growing restaurant group, and you have a lot of locations, but this is a big investment, I know, of time and money and effort and passion and planning, and but wonderful to hear that you're going to continue to do it. So, let me ask you this: your menu. I'll go to Isaac on this one. A lot of this is to learn about, to kind of connect the dots. And Gavin mentioned this a little bit, but new ideas, new menu items you all bring back from this?
I mean, I would say that's part of the goal, definitely. There's some things that we tasted that we just cannot do, and we have to know that, like based on the limitations of our space, and also the limitations of being so busy. Like sometimes we don't have the time to make certain things. But what I'm really hoping that kind of Gavin and future people from the kitchen that go, and we did have one cook from Atlanta that also went. I hope that they just get inspired to try new things on their own, and then to see like, oh, let me run it as a special this time, and then see how it sells. And if it sells really well, like maybe we can add it to a menu at some point down the road. We have made a significant amount of menu changes over the years, and we'll continue to do that. And I think the best way to make that happen is by getting people to taste the food in India and bring back those ideas. One thing that I think was really important for the group to experience was that there's multiple versions of every single dish that we serve and that anybody serves in India, and that there's no one way that something is supposed to be. It can change by city, by family. So we tasted some dishes 3 or 4 times that were different every single place we went. So that was a valuable part of it.
How many cities did you go to? I mean, how you were there 12 days. Did you travel?
Yeah, we flew into Delhi, and we were there for a couple of days, and then we took a train north to Dehradun, which is in the foothills of the Himalayas. And from there, we took 1 day trip to Rishikesh, which is like a city on the Ganges, kind of a holy Hindu city. And then we took another day trip to a Indian kind of mountain town called Mussoorie.
Day trips by bus or?
Those were by car.
By car.
So we had a taxi driver we hired to take those short trips. And then we flew from Dehradun down to Pune, which is really close to Marwan's hometown. It's about 2 hours away by car. And while we were in Pune, from Pune, then we went to Bombay by train, and we spent 3 days in Bombay. So it was in essence like 4 major cities in 12 days with 2 little towns on the way. So it was a lot. And I think everybody was like, by the time we were getting like to the airport and getting ready to leave, it was like, whew, I need a break. But it was an intense itinerary, but it did allow us to taste a lot of different styles of food.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you guys were going 3 meals a day, every day. It was
3 plus snacks and a lot of tea and dessert.
And a lot of tea and dessert.
A lot of juice. Yeah, I mean, we really went for it. There were some days when we were like, oh my God, we have to go eat more.
Right.
But yeah, we did great. We ate a lot of food.
Good deal. Anything else y'all want to share about the trip? Anything we didn't touch on, or things that you're thinking about talking about tomorrow in your presentation?
I mean, for me, I think one really important thing was to witness the way that people in India eat and the way that they interact with food and the way that they socialize. It can be, challenging for employees in a restaurant that represents another culture who are not of that culture. So a lot of our employees are Americans, but they're working in an Indian restaurant, and then they have Indian clientele, and so there's like cultural challenges there, and I think it's really valuable for our staff to be immersed in Indian culture, and I think it'll be really impactful when we start to have like more and more Indian customers in the summertime here in Asheville. So that's one really valuable takeaway that I hope that we can talk about a little bit in our meeting tomorrow.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure the Indian customers that haven't maybe been here before will be really impressed, not only with the food, but just the level of knowledge and care that the staff have and intimacy with the culture and everything that goes behind it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
What do you plan to talk about tomorrow, Andy?
Well, we're going to split it up a little bit by city.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to take Pune and Bombay, which were my personal favorites.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were in Pune on India Republic Day, which is almost like an equivalent to like Independence Day or something like that here.
Yeah.
And that was really wild. Just a lot of people, a lot of tourists. Yeah, and we got to see some really awesome live music that night too, like some Indian classical music.
Very cool.
Which, Gavin and I are both musicians, so that was really pretty amazing. So we'll probably touch on that. We're going to be sharing some pictures So we went to the place where Wada Pao, which was the first dish I ever had here before I started working here even, where that was invented. And
Okay.
Sheila, who was one of the cook from Atlanta who went with us, she got to go into one of the kitchens that, what was it, like 10,000 or something at Wada Pao's a day are made there. She
Wow.
got to make like 10 or so. And
that's cool.
That was really cool, and I think that was really special for her too. So yeah, I'll probably touch on that, and just like Maharashtra is like the state where those two cities are from or are in, which is where marijuana is from. So I feel like a lot of our food is kind of from that area, specialized from that area. So I think that'll be like kind of cool for our staff to hear about, kind of like where a lot of our food comes from.
Very cool. Very cool. Gavin, how about you? What are you going to focus on tomorrow?
I'll be focusing on Dehradun and kind of what we were doing around the city. And a big one for me, I really just wanted to kind of talk about, one, also the food, obviously, but two, like Andy kind of touched on it earlier, like I have like a new respect for one Chai Pani and what we've been doing, and I want to be able to communicate that to the staff so they can take pride in what we've been doing. But also, how lucky we are. One, just to be born in America, and to see how hard people were working over there, and just the amount of labor that goes into every detail, especially in the food.
Yeah.
Just really want to convey that to the staff, and I really appreciate what I have in my life, and kind of
Giving you a newfound perspective on how absolutely lucky we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And you guys are lucky to be part of such a great group. And thank you all very much for taking the time to do this. I know you had a wonderful trip. This has been really fun hearing about it. Like I said, Isaac, I tip my hat to you, to Marijuana, to the whole group here for what you've done. This is an amazing story. Your restaurant will benefit from it. Your food will benefit from it. Your guests will benefit from it. I know all of you have, and the team will as well. So really appreciate you taking the time to share this story, and just congratulations on having this vision. You've been thinking about this for a long time, I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Will. It was nice to talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. I think that's a wrap. And then we will be talking to Marijuana next. Thank you all very much.